Hello and welcome. My name's Peter. I'm the solo developer behind Growlery Games. It's been a month now since I transitioned from prototyping Growlery's current project, Blood Builder, and started developing the alpha build. Now, this video is going to be about that development so far, so this past month roughly. And interestingly, I'm going to discuss my decision to pick up some asset packs for environment in particular, and my consideration to potentially get an asset pack for UI as well. In my last game, everything other than audio was done by me. I did use a generative AI tool for the sprites. I'm not doing that this time around, but I did decide to get an asset pack to save time, and I'll talk about that more towards the end of the video because I want to do this kind of chronologically. So let's get to it. At the end of last month's video, I showed a bit of the beginning of the alpha's development. It featured an animated character walking around an updated tileset. And at that point, as far as the alpha build was concerned, the biggest update was just the placeholder animations for an idle and a walk. As I discussed last month, the character is developed in layers so that it can be customizable. That's something I want to have as a feature in the game. It will also help me with developing kind of some of the generic, not townspeople, but like patrons for the inn that will be in the game. I can just mix and match some different sets of clothing and things like that to make a variety instead of having to actually draw out different characters. Because at some point, right, there's only so many combinations. This will allow me to get quite a few combinations and not have to do a ton of extra work. For this video and the updates that have occurred from the alpha since then, the first thing that I did was I went back and updated and re-added the harvestable objects such as trees, rocks, and ores. From the prototype to the alpha, I am using the prototype as a blueprint, but I am updating the code and in many instances just redoing the code completely, finding ways that I can make it more expandable and modular when I can. And I did add also new data sets for additional objects and tools that didn't exist in the prototype. So in the prototype, there was really just like one tree. Well, there was just stone. There wasn't any other ores or anything like that. And so I added a few different trees. I added several different ores, including stone, that are mineable and can be chopped down with an axe for the player to interact with. And so in Godot, I use what's called the resource. The way I kind of think about it is it's just like a structure or like a small class that just has some preset values, and I just change the values depending on what that object is. The different harvestable objects also require different tools, right? Mineable things like ores and rocks need a pickaxe, trees need an axe, there'll be a shovel in the game for bushes and for tilling soil and stuff like that. And each harvestable object requires a certain tier at a minimum of tool, and that will be one of the ways for the player to progress and get rewarded for upgrading from their rusty tools at the beginning to copper, iron, steel is the progression that I'm envisioning right now for the game. And so the better resources require the better tools, and then those tools also harvest quicker because they do, behind the scenes, they basically do more damage to the harvestable object to drop the loot. But I had completed the overhead swing for the tools, so the axe and the pickaxe both use like an overhead swing animation. Right now it's a placeholder, but it is there, and I since last month, I have implemented it. So now when you go to harvest, whether it's mining or chopping down a tree, that overhead animation is playing, and it's playing with the correct tool in your hand. What I do still need to add is to make it so that it is I want the image to be the tool that you currently have equipped. Right now, it just shows the copper version of the tool, but it does switch between the axe and the pickaxe depending on what you're trying to harvest at the time. After finishing the harvesting of resources and adding new materials that were necessary to the sprite sheets, like the ores and a few other objects that get dropped as loot, I moved on to creating the storage containers and workstations. And I started with the storage containers. And the reason I started with the storage containers was so that I had a method of adding the tools to the game that was more reminiscent of what's going to actually happen in the final game. I imagine that at least the very basic tools like the axe and the hammer and pickaxe and shovel, the things that the player needs to get started, will probably be in some starter chests that you're directed towards, and then the other couple of tools will be picked up along the way. But that's why I started with the storage containers. I've added all of the storage containers that I currently have designed. And they have just different inventories and visual aesthetics to them. They also, when I made them, I added in a 4-frame opening animation as a placeholder, and the closing animation is just to open in reverse. So they'll have different audio, but the animation is the same, just played forward and backwards. They're placeholders, like a lot of what's going into the alpha. What's important is that the inventory slots are displayed properly when they're opened, which they are. I can put items in, I can take items out, right? All the functionalities there, even the animation is playing, but they will be updated later on visually. For the workstations, once that was done, that's what I focused on next, and I did all of them as far as the visuals. So I made in Sprite, which is the software I use for the pixel art. I made all of the different workstations and all the different tiers of those workstations that I currently have designed for the game. And I also added placeholder animations for the ones that have them. So the work table or workbench, for example, the player has an animation where they're like tinkering, but the bench itself doesn't move. So that doesn't need anything. But the carpenter's bench is basically just a big saw table. And so the saw, there's a small animation that makes the saw blade looks like it's turning while the player's interacting with it. The furnaces have a flame effect and smoke animation kind of going on. There's, I forget how many frames, but there's multiple frames for that to make it look like the fire is kind of roaring while it's active. What took me the longest for this is, once again, the animations. I made a tinkering animation for the player when they're interacting with certain workstations. Not all of them, because some of them, like the furnace, the player's just gonna drop materials into and it will cook over time. But the workbench and the carpenter bench and masonry table, the player is actually going to have to sit there and make the queued items. And so there's just it's just the hands, right, doing some motion to make it look like the character's busy doing something. Again, placeholder, but it's in there and it triggers, and stops with the press and release of the relevant button. The other animation I added during this time was a building animation. It's not implemented yet, but it's the player swinging a hammer, and again, it shows the hammer in the player's hand when they're constructing something. This will be used for upgrading some of the damaged items, that are going to be in the game when you start off. And I haven't totally decided yet, but it's possible that when you build a new, when you use a construction table to place a new workstation, and maybe even for larger decorative items, that it won't drop complete. You'd have to walk over and build it, and so that's when that build animation would happen. I made the animation, but it's not yet in the game. Like I said already, like last time, the animations are what take me the longest. This is kind of a 3 to 4 week period that I'm covering right now, from last month's video, and of those 3 to 4 weeks, the animations were a good week of that whole process, about maybe even a week and a couple of days of that whole time frame was just getting these 2 animations. But now that the placeholders exist, again, it's just updating sprite sheets, and implementation is already there. And for the animations, there's a lot more that is happening in the engine that is already, as long as the frame count doesn't change, the animation in Godot is already complete and will update with that sprite sheet being updated. That might sound a little confusing. I know that wasn't the best way to word it, but again, just updating the sprite sheet and re-importing it will make a big difference in the visual aspect of it. As far as the code is concerned and the in-engine pieces of it, it's ready to go, and just needs that visual update. Now for what I think is the most interesting part of this video, and that's my decision to purchase some art assets. After I finished implementing the harvestable materials and the storage containers and the crafting stations, I moved on to create a more complete tile set, specifically for the exterior of Dracula's castle, which is one of the most important locations in the game. It's where the player's going to start off, and it's where they're going to spend a good chunk of their time in at least right now what's designed to be kind of the work zone. So it's where your workstations will ultimately get placed. At least the crafting ones, the cooking ones and stuff like that will be in the inn. I spent a day or two putting together the tile set, and I had to look some things up. It's the first time I've ever worked on a tile set, so I wanted to get a good idea of what are some of the different scenario tiles that I may need for corner pieces, inner corners, outer corners, etc. And what some of the good ways to go about that were. And I was creating something that was functional. It was going to be a placeholder, and I was going to have to go back and really clean it up. But it was dawning on me, it was becoming clearer and clearer that this was going to take me a long time. This is just for one area of the map, and although some of it would be reusable, to create all of the different zones I was thinking of, this is going to take me a long time. And I gave myself 18 months for production on this game, and it's pretty hard timeline, but it's not, there's a little bit of wiggle room, but I want to stick to the 18 months. And the art was pushing me past that. It's you don't know what you don't know, and art is it's not my strength. Programming and project management is more of where I am. specifically programming. The art, I just didn't understand how much time it was going to take me. And I ran into this with Risk and Riches, but I didn't do tile sets in Risk and Riches. The animations were simple in Risk and Riches, and that was intentional, partially intentional, because it was already kind of like a simplistic looking game. So the animations were also a little more simplistic to go along with that, and it didn't require multiple directions. So for every animation I make, I need to do it 4 times, and left and right. Depending on what you're doing, you could mirror them. So I could get away with 3 directions, but I am uniquely doing a left and a right animation, so that way characters don't have to be symmetrical. And I already have a few animations where the right perspective and the left perspective are different. And that's before I even have unique clothing. Right now I'm just the clothing I have is symmetrical, but I could do some stuff later on that's not. So by getting this asset pack, I'm saving a lot of time, and I don't think I'm bringing down my production from 18 months to something shorter. I think I'm making that 18 months more realistic. And so after I realized all this, right, that how much time it was going to take me, I peeked online, and fortunately I did find this bundle that was on sale of pixel art environment packs, and they matched what I was going for. And it was only $39, which in the grand scheme of things is not a lot for developing a game. And the quality was there, and like I said, it matched for the most part the vision I had of what this game might look like at the end. So the design and all that is still true to what I initially set out. I'm not making a game around this asset pack. I found an asset pack that fits the game I'm making, which is important to me, that I'm not making games based on asset packs. I'm finding assets that fit the game I'm making. I know that might sound like a stupid distinction, but for me, it matters a bit. Now, other than the cost of the asset pack, there are some cons. The biggest being that now I've kind of set the bar for all of the custom art that I need to make, because I still need to make characters and their animations. I need to make some custom set pieces that don't exist in these tile sets. I've already made a couple using the tile sets. I've just modified them. But there are going to be some that I'm going to have to make from scratch. And the UI also. I'm actually considering an asset pack for that as well now, though. They all need to match the quality. The style for environment pieces, yes, they need to match the style. For characters in the UI, they don't totally need to match it, because you do want them to pop a bit, and it needs to look cohesive, but right, colors, outlining can be a bit different on the characters in the UI, because you don't want the player to have to consciously look for those elements on screen and break their immersion. They should be able to just keep playing and just kind of passively take that information in. But now I've set that bar for anything I'm making, so that's a con. But I think it's overall I'm getting a huge net benefit. The other thing that for this tile set bundle. They're 32 by 32 pixels based versus 16 by 16, which was what I was doing. Now, I haven't gotten too far, so there's not a lot I need to change. For the environment type stuff, the workstations are really the only thing that I'm going to have to do myself. The workstations aren't in the tile sets. Those are going to be custom from me. And so I need to change those to now be 32 by 32 based. My characters, fortunately, were with the 16 by 16 were 1 unit wide and 2 units tall. And even though this is a 32 by 32 pixel tile set, the doors and windows and structural elements and stuff are actually scaled for a character that's about 32 pixels tall. So even though the units of measure are different, based on the tiles, the characters don't have to be redone. They're just, instead, they're still going to be 32 by like 16, but now instead of being 1 unit tall and 2 by 2, they're 1 unit. I'm sorry. Instead of being 1 unit wide and 2 units tall, now they're going to be 1 unit tall and half a unit wide, and that may seem a little confusing if you're listening to this in the background, but I don't have to redo them. Is the point? I don't have to redo the characters. I may have to shave off a couple pixels or something like that to make them better fit the doorways, but that's something I can do in the polish phase. I'm not going to have to resize the characters, which subsequently would have made me have to redo all of the animations. So that is a huge potential problem that isn't going to exist with this change in the different tile maps. The reason I think that this piece is important and interesting, like this whole conversation about the purchasing the art assets, it's because I think it's something that a lot of indie developers, small indies, especially solo developers, face, whether to make everything yourself or to use asset packs. A lot of people have strong opinions on either side. I don't. Whatever works best for the game you're making is what you should do. The one thing I would caution is don't use asset packs that are very recognizable. This one, it could be used in another game. I'm sure it's used in some game jams or something. Like, I'm sure somebody has used it. Right? It's publicly available on itch.io for anybody to purchase. But I didn't start using it and be like, oh, this is from X game or Y game. So it's not immediately recognizable. I play a lot of games. And when I start making games of a certain genre, I look up and play some of the games in that genre that I haven't played before, and none of it instantly pops out to me. Hey, it looks similar, right? Because they're top-down games with the pixel art. But it doesn't look like it came right out of another game that I'm aware of right now. And so for other players, I would, unless they happen to play one of those, abstract games, I'm guessing most people aren't going to instantly recognize this as coming from somewhere else. The other things to consider is, for me, I think there's a slight distinction between buying, making a game around an asset pack versus making a game and finding asset packs that fit it. But that's just, that's my opinion. It's not, that's not a set in stone rule or something that makes one game, less or just something else. I do, when I'm figuring out what game to make next, look around to see what assets exist, especially for music and audio, because I don't touch, music and sound effects myself. Like, that's one of the things I'm never going to do myself. And so, just to make sure I can find something to use in the game. So it's something I do consider. For this game, I was going to do everything myself and hone in my own skills. But like I said, the amount of time it's going to take me, it doesn't make sense not to have purchased this asset pack, because of how well it fits the aesthetic I was going for. And I think at the end of the day, the quality that this is going to bring is going to be higher than what I would have achieved on my own in that 18-month timeline that I've set for this game. The last piece that I just want to touch on while we're with this asset pack is, like I said, I'm considering using a UI getting an asset pack for the UI as well, again, to save myself time. I know I can replicate what's in those asset packs, but it's just how much time it's going to take me. And the most expensive one out of those UI, I found 3 of them. One of them is more simplistic than the other 2, but the most expensive one's like $3.99. I'm considering getting all of them and mixing and matching a couple of them, or just putting in the different ones and getting feedback from others of which one best fits the game. So it's not just my opinion, because it is so cheap. For a couple of bucks, $3 or $4 at most, depending on which one I get, or if I get them all, I guess it's going to be $10 or $12. It's saving me weeks of work of making all of those elements myself. I mean, UI at face value seems simple, but then when you think about all the elements, right? Buttons, sliders, right? Both the slider that you may actually move and the bar that it's on, progress bars, all of the windows and outlines on menus and things. Like, there are a lot of little pieces, and so I could, each individually doesn't take a ton of time, but when you add it all up, I mean, that's shaving weeks off. And again, the quality is probably a bit better than I would do if I did it all from scratch. I mean, when people think about the indie game dream, you think about games like Stardew Valley with like Eric Barone, and as far as I know, that took him like 7 years. I mean, I know of a lot of other indie games that people spent years on, and I can understand why. Right, with Eric Barone, I believe part of the reason it took him so long was the art. He kept redoing it over and over again, because as he was going, he was becoming a better artist and realizing, hey, this doesn't look that good. And so he would update it, and then again become a better artist and look back and be like, oh, this doesn't match that, etc. So I think if you can find assets that match your game, it is well worth the investment. I decided to pull the trigger on this one and get it, and I'm likely going to get it, the UI packs as well, like I said, and most certainly I'm going to get music and sound effects, because again, it's just something that I'm not going to bother trying to pick up as a skill. It's just, right, time is finite. For us mortals. I did pick up my first music pack though, and I just want to mention that, because I'm planning on using it in the background a little bit. So some of the songs from that are probably been playing over me while I've been talking, but it's from Funky Music Baron. I also found that on itch.io. He's got 3 packs up there, music bundles that match kind of what I'm going for. Like, a lot of the songs are kind of more gothic themed, with like organs and like music box chimes. So it very much fits the atmosphere I'm trying to build with this dark, cozy vampire game. Cozy-ish vampire game. So it is, the music packs from Funky Music Baron are free. He just wants a credit. However, I did purchase it. I threw in $10. I don't know exactly how many of the songs I'm going to use, but I didn't feel totally comfortable, getting it for free, given that I'm making a commercial game with it. If I get the other ones later on, I'll throw in a few bucks for those as well. If it seems like I'm going to use a lot of the music, there's some other ones, music that I've identified that are paid, that I'm potentially going to get as well. All said and done, all of the assets that I'm looking to purchase right now are going to be less than $100 total. So this is not going to be a big expense for the game. I'm still keeping my budget pretty small. But that's what I got for this one. Again, I'm Peter, the sole developer behind Growlery Games. I usually do 1 to 2 videos a month, just documenting the journey of my studio and the progress on its current projects. Please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.